So earlier this week, we talked about Taylor Lorenz, who's been like a sort of leading the celebration sainthood effort for this Luigi Mangione guy, the guy who is suspected of assassinating the CEO of a health insurance company. I have to say suspected because those are the rules if he hasn't been convicted. But we all see the video of this guy with a gun shooting the guy in the back. I mean, sure looks to me like he murdered him. But, you know, he'll have his day in court. Meanwhile, Taylor Lorenz, she's already acquitted the guy. Not only is he innocent, he's a hero. Now, a little while ago, she appeared with Piers Morgan, and, well, here's how she went on and on about this murderer.
I do believe in the sanctity of life, and I think that's why I felt, along with so many other Americans, joy, unfortunately, you know, because it feels like...
Seriously?
I mean...
Joy in a man's execution?
Maybe not joy, but certainly not empathy. Because again,
we're watching the footage. How can this make you joyful? This guy's a husband, he's a father, and he's been gunned down in the middle of Manhattan. Why does that make you joyful?
Of Americans that he murdered. So are the tens of thousands of Americans, innocent Americans, who died because greedy health insurance executives like this one push policies of denying care to the most vulnerable people. And the many millions of Americans that have watched people that I care about suffer and in some cases die because of lack of health care.
So should they all be killed then? Should they all be killed, these healthcare executives? Would that make you even more joyful?
No, that would not.
But why not?
And,
why are you laughing?
I think because it wouldn't fix the system.
You seem to find the whole thing hilarious.
I find your question funny.
A bloke's been murdered in the street. I don't find it funny at all.
I don't find it funny that tens of thousands of Americans die every year and because they are denied life-saving healthcare from people like the CEO. Now, I want to fix the system. You're right. We shouldn't be going around shooting each other with vigilante justice. No. I think that it is a good thing that this murder has led to America, or really the media elites and politicians in this country paying attention to this issue for the first time. You mentioned you couldn't understand why somebody would feel this reaction when they watched a CEO die. It's because you have not dealt, it sounds like, with the American healthcare system in the way that millions of other Americans have.
I've dealt with the healthcare system in various ways in America. I don't think it's perfect by any means, but the idea that I would view it as something...
Have you been denied life?
Hang on. The idea that I would view it as something joyful, that a man has been, who's just a healthcare executive, has been executed in the street, I find completely bizarre.
All right. That's the clip from Piers Morgan. And of course, as you saw, Taylor Lorenz comes across as a ghoul, a frivolous, unserious, illogical, unintelligent ghoul. You would think that a journalist who's trying to make a profile for herself and make a name for herself and get herself out there and be taken seriously would sort of learn a lesson from that media hit and sort of recalibrate her position or her presentation. You would think wrong, though. Last night she made the curious choice to show up not just on Fox News, but with Sean Hannity, of all people. Let's see how that went.
Simple question. Do you condemn that? Can you take a moral stand and condemn that?
What I condemn is the violence of our system, and I would love for you to acknowledge that.
I'm not asking you to condemn the system. Taylor, do you condemn people that call for assassination?
Gosh, you're going to ask if I condemn Hamas next. This is crazy. I would love for you to acknowledge what I'm actually saying, Sean.
Actually, we're going to let you see the end there, but that would have been a great moment for Sean Hannity to lean in and say, well, do you condemn Hamas? I would actually genuinely like to get the answer to that question. I'm guessing based on the way she asked that and said that with a rhetorical flourish that she doesn't condemn Hamas. Boy, just next you're going to ask if I condemn Jeffrey Epstein. Well, okay, since you brought it up. What the hell? All right, so let's watch the end of how this falls apart for her.
And we seem to be talking past each other. I want to talk about the fact that half of all adults for delayed care because of cost. We need to talk about that 70% of Americans, by the way, believe that the insurance company practices are responsible in part for Thompson's death. These are signs of an unhealthy...
You want to put a rationalization. I am saying Anybody that wants to assassinate any innocent person is wrong. I don't care if it's a Democrat or a Republican or a father or a husband. And I speak that is a simple truth that anyone with a heart would easily say on national TV that you're having a hard time with.
If you want to prevent further deaths and you don't want gun violence in the street, which I think we both are aligned in wanting, right? We want peace. We do not want violence in this country, no matter what side of the political aisle it's coming from. You need to understand motives and you need to understand the ideology that people have. And that is what my job is.
Why don't you first start with the basics? I'm going to help you out.
Actually, we'll get to that in a minute. But do you understand the insidiously evil point of view that she just laid out there? Oh, we all want to end the violence. And the way we're going to end the violence is to understand the motivation and political agenda of those who are creating the violence. In other words, do what these people say, give them what they want, or more blood will be shed. We all want the assassinations to end. We don't want any more CEOs murdered on the sidewalk, getting shot with a bullet in the back of the head. So if we want that, if you're with me and you want to end these murders, give these people what they want. That's not journalism. That's not deep thought. That's not intellectualism. That's not logic. That's terrorism. That's Taylor Lorenz. Up until about a minute and a half ago, she was an employee in good standing with the Washington Post. She was celebrated. The publishing industry gave her book deals. She's got one of them behind her on the wall. She's a ghoul. All right, let's let this finish up.
Why don't you first condemn those that want to be involved in assassination and stop talking about them being handsome and smart and intelligent? And
I didn't say that I believe that. I am describing his supporters who do believe that. And I think it's very important, just the way that I would try to understand the ideology
Will you
of,
condemn his supporters?
Last question. Unite the Right rally. I would try to understand the ideology of anyone that would advocate for violence in this country, no matter what it is.
Do you condemn his supporters?
Once again, I believe in free speech. I believe in free speech. If they have not committed any crimes, his supporters are outside just saying things. They're not committing any sort of acts of violence.
You won't condemn his supporters. You won't say what they're doing is repulsive.
Once again, Sean, I believe in free speech and the right to free expression. I seem to be in the minority.
There's a difference between assassination and speech. Do you condemn those that support violence and, in this case, praise Luigi Mangione?
You asked, again, the people that are showing up outside to support Luigi, they're exercising their right to free speech. They're talking about the fact that over 320,000 people died from lack of health insurance in the first 2 years of the pandemic
Appreciate
alone.
you being with us.
They're things that we need to acknowledge if we ever want to fix our system. We have a violent healthcare system, Sean, and it needs reform, and that's what we should be focusing on. That's the violence we should center.
And people that have a platform like yours should speak out loudly and clearly and unambiguously, and you won't do it. Appreciate you being on. When we come.
And it's pretty obvious why she didn't do it. By the way, real fast, Kevin, I haven't watched Hannity in a long time. Do they always play the music under the interview like that? Or was the producer trying to end the interview and go to commercial and he was just ignoring? What was that?
I mean, she just would not stop talking.
So they were just trying to play her off.
100%.
Oh, all right. Boy, that was distracting, but that's fine. That's Hannity for you. Taylor Lorenz, she just believes in free speech and free expression, and she's against censorship. Taylor Lorenz doxed the woman behind the Libs of TikTok account, went up to her family members unannounced, knocked on their doors, and started presenting Libs of TikTok content to them to show them, this is your relative. Do you agree with this? Did you know that your relative is anonymous online and doing all of these things? She tried to bully Libs of TikTok. Haya Rydchik is her name now that she's been exposed, and she's a superstar. So it kind of boomeranged on Taylor Lorenz, but she tried to bully and intimidate and silence that voice and other conservative voices. She is a cyber bully in her own right, the way she conducts herself. And no, she does not believe in free speech or free expression. Only those speeches that she agrees with, only those ideas that she's agreeing with. And apparently she agrees with all the people who are celebrating a murderer, since she can't bring herself to say, yeah, I think that's wrong. But again, just want to reiterate, up until she really went a little too far, everything about that woman was celebrated by mainstream journalists. Like before the Washington Post, she was with the New York Times. So it's not some radical left-wing website. These are the establishment media organs that employed her, empowered her, and celebrated her. And I would say, based on what you just saw, I don't think it's a far stretch to assume that she speaks for most of the people in those newsrooms. Unless, of course, they want to come out and condemn her. But I doubt they will, just like Taylor Lorenz won't condemn murderers and those who love them.